Heineken has been here since 1923. We started our first brewery in Kinshasa, at that time Leopoldville in Belgian Congo. The opportunity for Africa is huge. First, of course, because Africans love beer, and beer, that's us, that's Heineken. But also secondly, there is a huge population growth on the continent. And already in the early starts of our presence in Africa, we noticed that once you see population growth coming along, people get more money in the pocket. You see at this moment certainly that there is a relative political stability, then you see that volume start to grow. So for Heineken, Africa is at this moment, as we call it internally the sweet spot of the business. That's where we make our business, our growth at this stage.
And what are the key challenges that you're facing as an operator in Africa?
You know, you have to look at the opportunities. And when there are opportunities, you're ready to face any challenge. We are experienced. We have been here, as I said, long time, since the early 1920s of the last century. There are, of course, challenges. And challenges are especially in production. We need electricity, to give you just one. And without electricity, no beer. Beer is a very electricity-hungry process, so we need to do that. Secondly, infrastructure. Infrastructure, we need to bring our products to our consumers, and they need to come back. We're now in Nigeria, a huge country, more than 500,000 outlets. But, you know, more or less, all these challenges we're ready to accept, because eventually the price of the game is enormous. And that's why we continue to invest in Africa as one of our leading regions in the world.
Of course, infrastructure is the big challenge, but are you happy with the pace of change we're seeing in Africa these days? A lot of people talk about Africa's time is now, but that window of opportunity will close eventually if we don't take advantage of it. Your thoughts about the pace of change we're seeing with respect to dealing with these issues like infrastructure?
Well, we would of course like to see a faster development, but again, you know, I've been around in this part of the world for 25 years in my career with Heineken, and if you look today what's happening on the continent, I compare it a lot with what happened in Southeast Asia in the early 90s, where I was president at the time. My career is African Asian, so I think I have a pretty good look on both developments. If you look what's happening today on the continent, Africa, and you compare that what happened in the early 90s in Southeast Asia, you see remarkable developments. As business people, you're always eager, you always want to go faster. But perhaps at this moment, the pace of development we see is probably the pace also Africa has to be able to cope with. But if something could get this pace faster, we would be the first to support that for sure.
All right, talk to us about the changing, should I say, competitive environment. We're seeing the likes of SAB Miller now making a major foray into places like Nigeria. They're very bullish about this market. Your thoughts about the changing competitive environment, particularly in places like Nigeria? Do you think, for instance, there's a chance for another big player to dominate this market? Right now, it's really dominated by, of course, Heineken and Diageo.
Well, you know, the name of the game in any business is competition. Competition brings the best out in people and in brands. We're not afraid of competition. As long as it all happens on the same playing field, we don't mind that there is competition. And competition is indeed also another sign that Africa is maturing. Every single country we see now, we see that there's competition. You talk about Nigeria. Last year we moved into Ethiopia. We moved into Ethiopia with our two major competitors, and with a local player, and now 4 players in that market. And what you start to see is, because all these competitors are bringing their best practices to the marketplace, to the consumer is excited by it. So competition on the same level playing field, we have no problem with that. We think it's excellent, actually.
You just mentioned that you moved into Ethiopia. Tell us the markets that you think are the big opportunities, the emerging opportunities in Africa these days. A lot of people talk about Rwanda and the changes we're seeing there. Of course, Ethiopia has also seen dramatic change over the last few years. Your thoughts on the big opportunity spots across Africa these days?
Yeah, well, every time I mention one, a few weeks later there's another market that people bring to my attention and say, look what's happening there. So you can't really pickpocket one market. You know, we are in Northern Africa, where the markets looked like to be pretty stable and pretty all around arranged. We bring in the Heineken brand, and look what's happening. With Heineken in Tunisia, Algeria, the growth is enormous. We see that now in Eastern Africa, which is a pretty well organized market. We just started our own import operation with the Heineken brand, and we see really considerable growth because we bring new practices, new brands to the market. You talked about a little bit before about competition. That's what competition brings about. Nigeria, of course, is enormous. It's very important. It's within the group Heineken, the second most important country in the world. We have 2 businesses here, so that shows the importance of Africa and certainly Nigeria for us as a company. But its growth is a little bit all over the continent in different forms, different shapes, different approaches. That's what makes the continent so incredibly important. We are, don't forget, in 20 countries on the continent. We have 57 plants. So we are a little bit everywhere. But when you look at our routes to market in every single market,